The fire is low, the savanna is quiet, and a single small figure sits alone on a flat stone with his knees pulled up to his chest. His round white face catches the last orange light of the sky, two small black dots for eyes, a straight line for a mouth, messy dark brown hair falling into the wind. His stitched brown tunic is dusty at the hem. His wooden spear rests across his lap, and just beyond the ring of firelight, two yellow eyes are watching him. Not hunting him, watching him, studying the shape of his face, trying to read something in it that no animal has ever tried to read before. Our caveman does not know it yet, but this quiet, uneven staring contest is the beginning of one of the strangest love stories in the history of life on Earth. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about dogs. Dogs are not simply obsessed with us. They are obsessed with our faces specifically. Not our hands, which feed them, not our feet, which walk them, not our voices, which command them, our faces. They stare at us while we eat. They stare at us while we sleep. They wake up in the middle of the night just to check that our face is still where they left it. And when we look back, something in them lights up in a way that no other animal on this planet does for us. That is not a coincidence. That is a 30,000-year-old habit, and it started, more or less, right here, at the edge of this fire, with this one small caveman and the yellow eyes in the dark. To understand why, you have to go back to a world where the little figure by the fire was not the top of the food chain. He was somewhere in the middle. Faster things wanted to eat him. Stronger things wanted to steal his kill. He survived by being clever, by being social, and, crucially, by leaving scraps. Bones with a little meat still clinging on. Guts nobody wanted. A half-eaten carcass abandoned when a bigger predator arrived. And on the edge of his camp, in the deep shadow beyond his firelight, a certain kind of wolf noticed. Not the bravest wolves, and not the most aggressive. Those got speared. The ones that survived were the curious ones, the calm ones, the ones who could look at that strange upright figure with the round white face and think, not enemy, not prey, something else, something worth watching. Our caveman lifts his head. The yellow eyes do not run. That is the mechanism. That is the entire secret. Evolution is usually a story of teeth and claws, but the story of dogs is a story of faces. Over thousands of years, generation after generation, the wolves that could tolerate a human gaze got closer to the fire. The ones that could not stayed hungry in the dark. And slowly, almost invisibly, a new kind of animal began to appear. Shorter snouts, floppier ears, softer eyes. A body still built for the hunt, but a brain rewired for something no wolf brain had ever needed before. The ability to read a human face. The ability to care what it meant. Watch our caveman now. He tosses a scrap of meat toward the shadow. The yellow eyes blink. A low shape creeps forward, belly to the ground, and for the first time in the history of two species, a wolf and a human make deliberate eye contact across a fire, and neither one attacks. Something in the caveman's round white face softens. Something in the wolf's face, in a way that will echo through every golden retriever and street mutt and sleeping puppy for the next 30,000 years, softens back. This is the moment the bond is born. Not a leash, not a command, a look. And here is where it gets stranger than you expect. Scientists have since discovered that dogs, unlike wolves, have evolved specific muscles around their eyes that other canines do not possess. A tiny muscle that lifts the inner eyebrow, giving them that famous, pleading, heart-melting expression. That look your dog gives you when you are eating cheese. That look that makes you break every rule you set for yourself. That muscle did not exist in ancient wolves. It grew, quite literally, out of the need to communicate with a human face. Dogs evolved the ability to make expressions that trigger our parental instincts, because the dogs who could do that got fed, got warmth, got protected, got to have puppies. Our caveman is not just domesticating a wolf. Without knowing it, he is sculpting a new face across thousands of generations, one that is built specifically to look at his. And he is being sculpted too, because humans who bonded with these early proto-dogs survived better, they hunted better, they slept safer, they heard the leopard coming in the night, because the shape by the fire heard it first and lifted its head. The caveman's children grew up beside these creatures, and their children after that, until human brains themselves began adapting to a world that included canine companions. We started reading dog faces. Dogs started reading ours. Two species quietly rewiring each other across the flicker of a firelight that never really went out. Now watch as our caveman walks out of the savannah, still the same small figure, still carrying his spear, but now with a shadow trotting at his heel. He crosses continents. He crosses centuries. In the frozen north, the shadow becomes a thick-furred sled dog, pulling him across the ice. And still, in the storm, it turns back to check his face. In the mountains of Central Asia, the shadow becomes a great livestock guardian, sleeping among sheep, and every time the caveman visits the flock, the enormous animal lifts its head and studies his expression before deciding whether to wag. In the villages of ancient Egypt, the shadow becomes a sleek sighthound painted onto tomb walls, buried beside its owner, so that even in the afterlife, it could look upon that face one more time. In the courtyards of imperial China, the shadow becomes a small, flat-faced companion, sitting in the lap of an empress, staring up at her as if she were the sun. Everywhere our caveman went, the shadow followed, and everywhere it kept watching his face. That is why your dog does what it does. When you come home and it explodes with joy, it is not just reacting to your arrival, it is scanning your face to see what mood you brought with you. When you cry, it presses its head against you, because 30,000 years of evolution have told it that a certain arrangement of muscles on a human face means the pack is in trouble. When you smile, it wags, because that shape means safety, means food, means fire, means we survived another night. Your dog is not staring at you because it is bored. Your dog is reading you the way its ancestors read the caveman by the fire, because reading you is, quite literally, what its species was built to do. And here is the part that will haunt you a little, in the best possible way. You have a face that a completely different species spent tens of thousands of years learning to love. Think about that. Somewhere in the deep past, a small, stick-limbed figure with a round white face and two black dot eyes sat by a fire, and something in the dark decided he was worth watching. And that decision never ended. It just kept unfolding through ice ages and empires and cities and centuries, until it arrived in your living room in the form of a warm, breathing animal that lifts its head every time you walk into the room, just to check that your face is still there. Our caveman is standing again now, on that same red ridge from the beginning, dust curling around his feet, warm sky glowing behind him. But he is not alone anymore. Beside him, at knee height, a simple shape sits patiently, ears up, eyes forward, waiting for him to look down. And when he does, when that round white face turns toward the small companion at his side, something passes between them that no other pair of species on Earth has ever quite managed to build. Not obedience, not ownership, recognition. The oldest recognition in the world. Dogs are not obsessed with human faces because they are simple. They are obsessed because they are, in a very real sense, the only other creatures on this planet who learned our language without ever needing words. Every glance your dog gives you is a message written in a script first drafted by firelight, in a savannah none of us remember, by a small caveman who once decided not to throw his spear. He fed the shadow instead. And the shadow, in return, gave us the closest thing our species has ever had to a mirror that loves us back. He stands there a moment longer, spear in hand, dog at his side, the wind pulling at his messy hair. Then he turns and walks on, into the dust, into the long story ahead, and the shadow, as it always has, as it always will, follows.